Hi, and welcome to Click the Shutter Bug.
No.
Nope.
Wrong one.
Click the shutter button. I'm sorry.
Click the shutter button photography.
I'm Julie.
I'm Robert.
This is my roommate. And he asked me to sit in on these things with him because he was having some issues. I do a Tasty in Texas. I do a cooking channel. And I've learned from my mistakes. And so tonight what we're going to do is we're going to, ta-da,
do mine, I guess. So she's going to ask me some questions, and I'm going to answer her questions.
Okay. What is the first camera that you ever shot with?
Very first one was this.
And that has what? What kind of film did it use?
This is a Kodak Instamatic. It's a 126. It's a film camera. It was given to me by my grandparents for Christmas, and it was the only camera I ever knew there for a long time. It was, I guess I got it when I was 9, 10 years old.
And how long did that take your journey?
Well, what happened was a friend of mine asked me to go to a concert. I said, okay, so we went to a concert and we saw Blue Oyster Cult, Black Oak, and Cheap Trick. And I go, wow, that's really cool. I got to photograph the next one. So I took this to photograph the next one because I didn't know anything about cameras. And this was a camera to me. And it just so happens the next show was Queen's News of the World Tour with We Will Rock You, We Are the Champions.
What you have a picture of somewhere.
Not in here right now.
Oh.
But, so I got pictures of Freddie Mercury and Brian May with this. They're not great, but I got them. And then I graduated to the next camera.
And what was your next camera?
Oh, the next camera was this one. Oh, by the way, well, I was on this one. It was the next one. And this is a Keystone Everflash 126. It's basically the same kind of camera as that one, except this one had a built-in flash. That one you had to use a thing called flash cubes, and you put them in, and they were good for about 4 shots, and then you had to change the flash cubes.
You probably still have some around here somewhere.
Probably somewhere. But I used this next, and I photographed the very first Texas Jam in 1978 with it.
1979.
78. First was 78. I did
the first one. Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So I shot it, and I have a picture of Triumph that I shot. I shot Rick Emmett. I was sitting on the end of the stage, and he was mad. So I hit him because I didn't know any better. I hit him with the flash, and it was dark, and well, you know how things go. But I used this for probably about a year. And one of the things about these cameras are, when you start out, you don't know anything any better. So you go with what you got. And to me, this was a camera, and I didn't know the difference. But
right.
That's what I used.
Okay, so your next camera was?
The next camera, well, what happened is I asked my parents for Christmas. I wanted a Minolta.
Oh, you asked your Santa Claus?
Yeah, Santa Claus. I wanted a Minolta 110 SLR, and I thought that was the coolest camera, and I needed a better camera, so I thought that's what I wanted. So we went to my grandmother's on Christmas Eve. We opened our presents, and I opened it up, and I got a camera. It wasn't the one I wanted, and I didn't know anything about it, but I got this, which is a Petrie Compact 35. It's a 35 millimeter SLR film camera, and I got a lens. I got a 135 f2.8 JCPenney lens and a 2x converter, and I didn't know a damn thing about it.
Does that lens switch out?
Yeah, because what you do is it's what they call an M42 lens, and it.
Oh, it's not a click and turn.
No, it's not a bayonet, and it screws in, and it's got a little pin in it that closes the diaphragm, and that's how you interchange lenses.
Okay, so how do you, if you had to clean the sensor, what would you do?
There is no sensor. This is an actual film camera. You load it with the Mylar film.
And it's a 35 millimeter?
35 millimeter. And
is it automatic or is it power wound?
Oh no, it's all manual advance. It's full. It's full manual, no automatic exposure at all. It has a meter that you use you read on the inside of it. It's a match needle meter. And I used this camera for about 2 years, and with this camera I shot the 1979 Texas Jam, and during that show I shot Van Halen, Eddie Van Halen. I got pictures of Eddie Van Halen, David Lee Roth, Michael Anthony, and Alex Van Halen. I shot Heart, and I shot Boston, and Nazareth, I think, was in that show too. So I've got several from that show. But in the springtime, I think it was in the springtime or maybe late fall, I shot Ted Nugent with it. So a lot of the shows that I've shot started off with this, but I literally sat in the back seat of my parents' car coming home from Christmas and my grandmother's, reading the manual, learning how to use this silly thing. And
now, which grandma gave you the first camera? The one in Maine or one in Fort Smith?
My dad's parents, the ones in New England, in Maine, gave me my first camera. Why, I have no earthly idea. They kept giving me stuff that they thought was interesting. I mean, I got some really different kind of things, and the camera I thought was really unusual because I had really no interest in photography at the time. I didn't know anything about it. I was an 8-9-year-old kid, and I got it. And that's what I traveled with, because my parents traveled all over the world, and we used it on vacations and stuff like that. I took it to like Washington D.C. or up in the mountains of Colorado, and took it to San Francisco, and that's what I used as a camera. So that's the only one I knew. And then they bought this, and why they bought this, I have no earthly clue. But it taught me how to learn to use a camera, and I used it from probably 1979 to off and on to 81, 82. But this is what I learned on.
Okay, and you have an Olympus. I used to have an Olympus.
You used to have an Olympus?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
My son has it now.
Yeah.
But I didn't have this big old grip.
Well, that grip, well, I'm missing the battery holder on it. I didn't just realize that. This grip is a Auto Winder 2. It's a Winder 2. It fires at 3 frames a second, 2.5. By today's standard, that's incredibly slow, but when you load the camera with 36 shots of film, it doesn't take long to burn through it. With the camera, I advanced from the Petrie to this one.
Is that a manual?
It's manual also. I prefer manual cameras. There's nothing automatic on it except for the film advance, and for a long time I used it without the film advance, so I manually wound all the film.
What's the film advance?
The film advance on it moves the film through the camera automatically. With a digital camera now, what you do is you have a sensor and nothing moves. There's no moving parts inside except the shutter. On these type cameras, the shutter moves and the film moves in a sequence. It's kind of like a dance step. But over probably 2-3 years, I guess it started in 1980, I bought this camera, and I remember there used to be a place called Wilson's, and I put it on layaway, and because I really wanted a Nikon FM but couldn't afford it, and they had this for $249, and they allowed me to put it on layaway. And when you make $2.35 an hour, it took a little while to get it out, but I got it out, and I wore it out. I bought lenses for it. What I've got on it now is everybody now wants a 200 millimeter f2.8. This is a 200 millimeter f3.5, which is the closest I could get at the time, and I've got a 135 f2.5 I use with it, and I've got a 28 f2.8. But this was.
Do you still use that?
No, I don't use it. I was in California, and the film advance broke on it, and I had them repair it. And while they were repairing it, I was in I was in San Jose, California, and I had to get a camera because I was on vacation, and you couldn't get a new Olympus SLR. So I went and switched to Nikon at the time, and I bought a Nikon N70, and I got this back to town, and there's an Olympus place close by, and I got them to fix it. And I think it cost me $110, but with this I've shot the Moody Blues, I've shot John Denver, I've shot Charlie Daniels, I've shot Elvis Costello, I've shot Hart again. Most of the shows I've shot with this, and this was just a flat workhorse. I control everything with it manually, and this is where where it all started. Some of the pictures you see on the wall up there, Chuck Berry.
I don't know if they can see him.
I don't know if you can see him, Ted Nugent up there. Some of those were shot with this, and this is what started my original archive.
Okay, and so the next camera you got was a Nikon.
Yeah, I bought a
Was
Nikon.
it a DSL?
No, it wasn't a DSLR. It was a film camera too. I bought a Nikon N70, and then I bought a Nikon F100. I got it for Christmas, and started using it. And I laid off of event and music photography for quite a while, and then I got back into it. But I bought a D70S and played with it, and I got invited to take some photography classes where I work, some from very high-end ones, photographic business and that kind of stuff. And I decided I'd get back into it, so I bought a Nikon D7100 because that was the best I could get at the time, and I used those two. I shot places locally, shot the Wiley Opry, and I shot a place called Sneaky Pete's, and I started getting back into music photography. And then a little bit later, I bought a D800, Nikon D800, and they had an 80 to 200 f2.8 lens that I bought refurbished, and paired it with that, and I carry the D7100 and the D800 with the 2.8, and I carry a 28-105 to go along with it, and that's what I use for the majority of my shooting now. And over the last probably the last 12 months, we've filmed 42 shows. Most of it's all Texas Red Dirt and Americana music. We've had a lot of fun doing it, but that's where we're starting, and we're getting ready to start for next year.
Mm-hmm. So my camera is a...
You got a D200.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fairly heavy. It's not the lightest in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But when you set up for a photo shoot,
Mm-hmm.
is it hard to set up with a DSLR?
No, a lot of the things with a DSLR.
Or do you have to do it? Do you have to do it ahead of time?
Yes.
Like
I do.
with a film camera, you don't have to. You can just go in and shoot.
No, with a film camera, you still have to set the ISO, what they called ASA at the time, and yeah, it's a lot less complex. With a DSLR, normally what I'll do is I'll set it up in the spot metering, so that it's pinpointed in the viewfinder on a little bitty spot, and I'll spot on the face. I'll set the focus points also. I use a 9 grouping focus point, and I do the same thing. It's focusing on that same point. I have a tendency to want to set my my ISO, my sensor, before the show, and that way I'm ready. So like in today's world, what you do is you'll have 3 songs you get to shoot, and then you have to get out and all that, and so I don't want to waste time fiddling with my camera while I'm doing that kind of stuff. So I'll set it in advance. Sometimes I get a little fooled. It depends on the artist. Sometimes I don't. Give you an example. The first time I shot Aaron Watson, Aaron uses a lot of backlighting, and you have to account for that. So quickly you have to think and adjust for that.
So, but would you have to adjust it with a camera like this, a film camera? Would you have to adjust it?
Yeah, you would, but it'd be in a different manner. You'd have shutter speed and aperture adjustments.
Now, is it still considered raw?
No, there's not considered raw because there's nothing. Raw is the format for digital.
Right.
Okay. What you have on this is
I didn't know because I'm just now getting into it and learning all these terms and stuff.
Well, what you have now is you have in this you have a film. It's at a preset ISO. With a digital camera, you can change the sensitivity in the camera. So this is set at a certain. We used to use what was called Tri-X 400 ASA or ISO, or Ektachrome 400 and it was 400 only, you could push or pull it, which means that you could tell the film it's a different sensitivity, and it changed during development. But with all that's done now in the digital camera, so you don't have to worry about it. But yeah.
So how many, now is that a screw off or is that a
No,
click?
it's a bayonet. It took me a while to get the bayonet off.
No, it's a click and turn?
It's a click and turn, and
That's what I call them.
this is kind of interesting because
I didn't even know it was called a bayonet.
Yep. And what made me pick this one is I used to see commercials where they took this camera up to Mount Everest, and there's a picture of a guy on Mount Everest at the very top with a flag and an Olympus camera. I go, God, that's got to be a tough camera. That's got to be really good. And I liked it because it was small. I have rather small hands, and I liked it because of the size.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's pretty much the start of it. And with the digital cameras we have now, you have to do I do a lot of presetting because, like I say, I don't want to waste time, and I guess before we get into the show what the show is going to be like. I did a show back in the late summer, and I was photographing Stoney LaRue, and Stoney's stage is real dark, and he's kind of hard to shoot. He uses pink and blue lights and things like that. So as a photographer, you have to adjust to what you see in the conditions quickly, or you have to be preset to what you're going to shoot. And then following him immediately was Gary Allen, who was like the whole stage lit up.
So like this is the concept that you shot here of Stoney LaRue.
Yes, it is.
Okay, and that has the pink and blue background.
Right, but instead of making him pink and blue, and I fought with that for a little bit with Photoshop and things like that, I figured he looked best in black and white, and he didn't look like a pink lobster or blue.
So what is the difference between this photo versus this photo?
This is what you see is what you get. Now it would come out on a slide film, and he would look kind of pink and blue in that slide film. And then in today's world, what you do is you take that slide, put it into a slide scanner, scan it, and then you treat it just like it was any other file. You treat it just like the digital image, the raw image that you got off the other camera. So yeah, that's how you'd handle that. A lot of history there. A lot of history.
Wow. So what on the top is, are those right here?
On the top, wait, some of that is you have let's see, on the top of this one, that's your ISO settings for your film sensitivity. That's your shutter button. And
Well, I figured that was the shutter button.
it tells you what shutter speed you're going to have, and then your f-stop's on the front.
The f-stop, this?
Right here. That's your aperture. See, the Olympus has the shutter speed and the aperture all in the lens barrel area.
Yeah, my Olympus was pretty easy when I had mine.
Well, normally,
But Brent has it now, but it's broke.
Normally I carry two cameras when I do anything. I carry this. I used to carry this one, and I carry an Olympus OMPC. And an OMPC is an automatic version of the camera, but it's not quite as sturdy, weather sealed, and as rugged as this. But it made a great backup camera. And today I carry that primarily. I carry the Nikon D800, the D7100. We also have a D70S that we still use every once in a while. And I also carry a Nikon Coolpix P6000 that we use that for small venues, or we use for places where they don't want you to carry heavy cameras in, or things with interchangeable lenses. And we carry for real tight places, and depending on where I'm at, I carry a Panasonic Leica based camera for real quick things.
So it actually has a battery that this uses?
Yeah, it does. It uses a battery. The battery's underneath, and it's a button cell battery,
So,
and that controls the metering.
what? This?
Yes, and the battery.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to stay on.
Then we'll stay on.
That's kind of cool. Now, does this camera still work?
Yes, still does. That camera is right now 42 years old, and you just fired it, and it still works.
Okay, but when you look through the lens, why does it have a little round speck?
One of those things that's in there is a focusing aid device. You use it to focus with. Back in the day, you didn't have autofocus, and that you had to manually focus also.
Because see, on my Olympus, I had a short lens.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a long lens.
Then it's not regarding the lens; it's the camera body itself.
Oh. And this is heavy.
Not as heavy as the D800.
No.
The D800's a
Pretty
beast.
heavy.
So, pretty much that tells a little bit about some of the equipment I've used over time, and
The history. The history is amazing. Because considering that you started out here.
Yep.
And you're at the D80, whatever, 100.
The D800. Mm-hmm. And gone digital and autofocus, and I use manual mode on it still too. It allows me to control what I need on the camera. I don't use any automatic settings at all other than autofocus. I set my own ISO, I set my own shutter speed, I set my own f-stop, I set everything manually, completely.
Okay.
And I use the spot metering as a guide, but like I said, there's sometimes you'll be fooled by the artist, and you'll get lights that are more harsh or hard to deal with, and you have to be able to do that on the fly. And if you can't do that on the fly, you don't want to be wrestling your camera. You want to be doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Right. Okay. Well, if y'all have any questions that y'all would like to ask them, just leave it in your comments or leave it in his comments. Remember to click like and ring the bell.
Smash that subscribe button for me. So, yep, please do. And like I said, if you have any questions, drop me a note. Be glad to hear from you.
So anyway, over and out.
See ya.
Peace out.
Bye.